software are you using for screen recording?
It comes standard on Mac, I learned. If you press Command Shift F5, you just start recording.
Wow.
Okay, but now I'm presenting and I'm recording.
Badass.
Hello world.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello world. Dario's musing.
Wonderful. Okay, so this is I'm going to take you through the MUB as it's happening. So this first bit of software I'm showing you is we're using Discord. This is where all the conversations are happening. Their groups are on the left here, so there's text channels. So these are all our members. We've got 19 people currently active, but there are about 40 recruits currently involved. There are 10 groups on the left here. There's a general group, which is just for everyone to chat. I've been writing a lot about brainstorming at the moment, but then, so that's groups with everyone, and then these are groups of 4 recruits per group, and this is how they've mainly been communicating. They have the option of a voice channel, so again with the same groups, and they can just jump on that, so that's been really nice. But it's been good to see. I haven't been prescriptive on this, but a lot of them have actually just been typing, communicating through text, which is great for data. They've been able just to get through the process by just texting each other on this channel. So that's how they're communicating, and that's always just running in the background. So that's Discord, and then what they're working on is Figma. So now here's the Figma board I've set up. So everyone gets a template, and on the left you'll see there's these different cards. There's this is just a general welcome, but you can click through these themes, and it's divided up into projects and topics. So the line breaks show the different 5 steps of design thinking. So this is an example of the topic. So this is like the textbook. So all the information is here. What is design thinking? They can go through, and there's links to different examples of design thinking, etc. We're following this 5-step process, the classic empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. And that's then reflected on the left here. So their first thing, empathy, then there's some define, ideating, prototyping, and testing. So those are all the topics, and then under the topics they've got the project. So in empathy, they have to build their personas, etc. So it's topics and projects. But the projects are where they actually do the work and build the template, and I'll show you that now. So the first project they did was just getting to know Figma, because this is new to them, but also getting to know their team, because they hadn't met their team before, in real life or virtual life, hadn't even seen faces. So they were each instructed to build these cards. So of it getting to know Figma, and they've all made really beautiful cards, and it's even unclear to me who's a designer and who's a coder, because they're all just really high quality. So this is just one group. You can see the tabs up here. I'll show you the a different group just now. But yeah, so they've all built these cards, and that was just getting to know Figma. And then they went into the empathy exercises, and this is what that looked like. There's an instruction, so they read the text, the topic text, and then they had to do the project. And there's an instruction in the project, and then they build out the template. So we didn't give them a design challenge. They kind of picked that themselves. So who do you want to design for was their first question. They just duplicated sticky notes. These are their faces, so they all put down their own ideas of who they could design for. So this suggested a 25-year-old lady who just moved to Joburg. So we're defining the persona before we're defining the challenge that person faces. And then there's some kind of voting. They've used these sticky dots. And then the next bit is, so that was who are they, and then what do they do. So they then got to this, filled out this template. In this design sprint, we'll be designing for Miss New Job, who is a marketing representative. So that's their person, and then they built a persona. So this is the persona of Miss New Job. Cool, so that's who they're designing for. They then, the next template, they copy and paste their persona there, and they had to build a questionnaire. So again, the instructions all here on the left, how do you build a good questionnaire? and they fill out this template. So what would you like to learn about them? Them being their persona. They all came up with questions, voted on the questions they thought were the best. They moved those questions down here, selected their best, and then they're instructed to build a Google form, which they then built and sent out to their relevant sort of persona group. So the group doing musicians had to find musicians in their own network. Another group doing child welfare had to find mothers who are in the child welfare scheme. Anyway, and then, so here they've just pasted their findings from their Google form. So 11 responses, pretty cool. Asked some poignant questions, got some information. So great. So once they had that, still part of empathy, they drew a user journey. Here's an instruction of how to draw the user journey. Again, the persona card, who are we designing for? This was just part of their planning, not part of the original template, but just thinking how that works. And then they've gone and built out, what is that? There we go. And then they've gone and built out this user journey, and this group used these interesting little, I forget what they're called, but little graphics that they just found on the internet. Another example of a group will this load? Yeah, so this is another way to do it. I wasn't prescriptive about this. Everyone just kind of found their own way. And this is equally as good and interesting. So that's just two different types. So back to the example I'm showing you. So then they went to define the instructions and the topic, had to make a moment. Then they did some sort of voting. This group decided to use their own voting system with these faces. And then this one won in this case. So here's their frame they chose. This story tells a story of a young person going to their first day of work and then can't find a taxi. So this is like, how do I get to where I'm going? And their project statement was like, it's just unclear where to catch a taxi for where you need that taxi to go. So then they define that problem statement again, some information. What is the problem statement? So there's our user, there's the biggest problem our user faces, and then they make these statements. They get all the components, user insight, user's need, and they throw that into a sentence. This one's quite long, but all the info is there. So Naledi works in marketing and travels to different neighborhoods and areas. She needs to have more information on taxi ranks and taxi routes at hand because public transport in the country is largely informal, with information being passed down by word of mouth or by asking. There's very little information on the internet, and when it is there, it's hard to find. And then they made a how might we statement on that. Then they go into ideation. There's the topic, that's why we brainstorm, and the project. And this is great. You can see them in real time. Let's see what they're up to. They might just be chatting. There's someone's moving around. But this is them brainstorming. Each group member here has a little square, and they're busy throwing their ideas down, and someone's keeping time. And then they're going to take those ideas and then bucket them to try to get to their solution, like the typical design thinking process we know. So that's where they are. So everything beyond this point they haven't done yet. But the next bits are prototyping, so building some wireframes, and either they can use these components. So this just looks a bit messy, but there's everything you might need to build a early version of an app. And then they're asked to create a high fidelity prototype. And I can quickly show you just the power of this, of Figma, although we've hacked it to make the design sprint templates on it. This is really what it's built for. So this is just an example I pulled off the internet. You can create these high fidelity prototypes, and this is it in action. So it kind of looks like the app. There's no code here. So this is some kind of e-commerce store. Here we're checking out. Again, as I say, an example I've just pulled off the internet. But our recruits are hopefully going to build something like this. You can search for a store. So there's a few, you just stick pictures to pictures. And then, it feels quite intuitive, or it feels like the app. So in this case, I'm placing my order. So there's the whole digital user experience, plotted out there. And what that actually just looks like are these cards. So that's where they're going. And then the last bit, so that's after prototyping. Then testing, they need to build an MVP. So kind of what are the steps to actually get out the earliest version of our product to market, learning a bit of agile here. And then they're required to build a pitch deck of their product. And that will be like the final showcase. Yeah, so those are all the steps beginning to end. And yeah, if I go back, no, that's probably it. So great, thank you for watching.
Okay, now I can comment. Dude, that is amazing. That is so well done. I don't want to say anything whilst you're on the call because you're probably going to be distributing it, but it's really, really impressive. Yeah, well done. I just